What's going on, Soul Nation? Ginger Prime here, and we've got more dev updates from the Outrider devs. This one focusing in on the inventory wipes apparently having been fixed, but then moving on to what are they going to do regarding restoration, some Google Stadia news in this build, and more about community appreciation packages. And that's what we're going to dive into today, the news. All the links will be in the description of this video if you want to go check it out for yourself. But let's go ahead and dive in. The first part of this is just going to be a general overview summary. So if you're just interested in kind of the high level stuff, you can just hang out for that and bounce out. But we'll get into the nitty gritty details in this video. If you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button, that like button. You can always unsubscribe later if you desire. So anyway, let's go ahead and have some fun. Hello everyone. With the patch having successfully deployed and continuing to prevent any further complete inventory wipes, thank you again for your patience. We are now setting our sights on the following. Please note the TLDR is here in the summary, and we'll drill down here into the other tabs here in a second. So the inventory restoration, basically they're aiming to restore as many of the lost items and accolades as possible. Restored items will be god rolls. Characters counting or encountering the couldn't connect to server login error will no longer encounter this area once the restoration is complete. Restoration testing is currently underway, and we aim to provide an exact schedule for the complete restorations as soon as possible. We strongly recommend reviewing the dictated thread in this matter, as it contains for more information and the explanations that are far too complex for a TLDR. Regarding the community appreciation packages, they will be granted to all players after the inventory restoration has been completed. Stadia development, they are working to bring Stadia in line with the other platforms, with an initial patch releasing in the week of April 26th. And then regarding other news, more patches. The team is continuing to work hard on upcoming patches to address a variety of bugs and performance improvements, as well as a few other things, and more news will be coming on that soon. And balancing, as a small note, they haven't forgotten the feedback from previous balance changes and are working on a post to provide more background on past changes and our overall balancing plans for the game, and they're going to share an update on that in the near future. Let's go ahead and dive into the meat of this. Here we got the restoration details. And so anyway, in last week's patch we continued to indicate widespread success. We're actually very happy with now some more details are regarding our intended restoration process. What's going to be restored? Items granted will have the same attribute combinations but with god roll values. This means that these items will be at least the same, if not better quality than the original lost items. The items will be granted at the character's highest available equipment level, taking world tiers and challenge tiers into consideration. They are currently dealing with 3 groups of characters, which for the sake of clarity, they're going to review as follows. Group A, unplayable characters with an invalid inventory. These characters lost gear when no longer playable, couldn't connect to server error when logging in. Most affected players will be in this group. Group B, characters that do not have an invalid inventory but who have lost gear. These characters who have lost gear will still be playable, but players may continue to play on these characters since the wipe. These cases are far more difficult to conclusively identify en masse, but they are fewer in number. And then Group C, players who do not have an invalid inventory and who have not lost gear. These are essentially all players in the Outriders gaming population who did not encounter the inventory wipe. This is important to note that we want to ensure that our restoration efforts do not inadvertently impact them as well. We are unable to conclusively distinguish Group B from C players, which is why our approach to each group is going to be a little bit different. So Group A, for restoration, all items regardless of rarity that were equipped at the time of the inventory wipe will be restored. So there'll be more details down below. All legendary items that were in your inventory, and they're going to have more detail here in a second. For non-legendary items, 20 previously acquired items that were in your inventory with first prioritization based off of rarity, descending from epic rarity, and second prioritization based off the date acquired. And then all fully completed accolades will be restored to you previously reached in the final tier of said accolade. For Group E, up to 20 legendary items that were in your inventory, and then all completed accolades will be restored. And then C, no restoration required. When will the restoration be run? We had hoped to provide the exact date for this today, but we do need a little bit more time to make sure that this process is running precisely as intended, and we're running the operation at this scale and our database, and we want to ensure that there are no instances where the restoration could have a continued significant negative impact on individual players or the population as a whole. Nevertheless, we are working on an ASAP schedule and fully understand how disappointing it is not yet to have your items back today. To help explain the complexities, we have to ensure that they do not go awry. We want to jump into this next reply. Further details. While we understand that the following information could quickly become a bit confusing, we did want to share it here to better explain the complexity of this issue, as well as any minor restoration quirks that you may encounter. Restoring inventories is unfortunately not a simple restore from backup process, and the process for running the restoration actually involves analyzing every Outriders player profile in existence and then scanning it for possible inventory corruption. Affected characters, items, and histories are then cross-referenced against our analytics metrics, which in turn inform us of which items were lost. Group A, the rules we are using to identify most, but not all, inventory wipe cases are as follows. Our database can conclusively tell us whether a player has an inventory invalid inventory by checking if they have an item in all equipped slots. After the first equip to such slot, this slot cannot ever be empty since it is possible to sell or dismantle an equipped item. Any character whose equipment slots are entirely empty, therefore, must have an invalid inventory and should be restored. To fix an invalid inventory, we need to restore items to all equipment slots. Our analytics can inform us which items the player previously had equipped. Additionally, because we cannot conclusively identify these characters as having been wiped, we can grant all previously acquired legendary items back without worry. So their analytics can inform us which analytics you previously had acquired. Additionally, because we can conclusively identify these characters that have been wiped, we can grant a total of 20 previously acquired items that were in their inventory. The first prioritization based off of rarity, descending from epic rarity, and the second prioritization based on date acquired. And then they'll use obviously their analytics to kind of form that. Now, Group B, the rules we're identifying a smaller number of inventory wipe cases are identifying lost items as follows. So the player had acquired an item. Analytics tells us whether that item was dismantled. If it was not dismantled, we check the database to see whether that item is still in the inventory. If it is no longer present and it was a legendary item, we will assume that it was lost to an inventory wipe, as legendaries will most often be scrapped. However, while our analytics are proving extremely helpful, they do not track every single interaction with an item. This means the steps to identify lost items for Group B, in fact, may also identify no longer present gear, regardless of rarity, from players in Group C to the rest of the population. This is why we are limiting Group B restoration just to legendary items. Legendary items are rare and most likely to be dismantled. Any player who has previously had but did not dismantle a legendary item will have the item restored, even if the character did not encounter inventory wipe, was in Group C. You can immediately sell an item if you choose to do so. In order to not impact Group C, each character not in Group A will therefore only have a maximum of 20 legendaries restored. In order to not impact Group C, each character will not have, in Group A, therefore will not have the 20 previously acquired items restored. Note that this data needed for the operation has already been collected. Please do not attempt to exploit the process, as you will only end up losing your items. The above complexities are why we are still working to confirm the exact schedule of the restoration, but we are working on it ASAP. The schedule, as fully understood, now disappointing it is to not yet have your items back today. So for some extra details, items that will be granted back in order of importance to the character equipment slots followed by their inventory, and we will have measures in place to prevent items from full inventories or full stashes being discarded or not restored. However, we would still recommend ensuring that there's enough space in your character's stash or all characters should you be expecting a lot of items to be restored. And then note, they would like to confirm that anyone who has had their items restored as a part of the restoration process will, at a later date, receive an additional appreciation package. So let's talk about community appreciation packages in the latest news. They will deliver the community participation package along with the inventory restoration process once that has been completed. Additionally, we would like to confirm that we are working on doing something similar for anyone who has been affected by the wipes and has their items restored as part of the restoration process. Further details on deployment hereof will be shared in the future. Below is the original message surrounding the community appreciation package with an expanded eligibility window. After working on Outriders for more than 5 years, we are disappointed as you at the launch weekend did not go as planned, and we ran into connectivity issues, which they explained and we've covered here on the channel before. Although all this is really appreciated, all your messages of support and encouragement have helped us power through improve the situation. We would like to thank each and every one of you. Well, I'm just saying it. However, we would like to confirm that we are working on a small appreciation package for our launch window players, and they're still working through the exact details, etc. So essentially all players who have played between March 31st and April 16th, any player outside of the above window but for whom we have performed an automatic inventory wipe restoration is also going to be available. Your highest level character will receive a level appropriate legendary weapon, a level appropriate amount of titanium, the emote frustration, which was essentially otherwise a bit unattainable, and the irony was not intentional, but it is fitting. And here are our intentions, but these are the details. So we are still waiting on a date for all of that. Guys, that's the news. Hopefully this has been informative and you got what you needed out of it. Lots of stuff happening, lots of stuff to play. I just released my Bleed build guide for Devastator. I've almost got Technomancer. I got them through the story. I'm just trying to finish up some leveling on them and then going to shift into Trickster and Pyromancer. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the game as much as I am, and hopefully you're having fun and playing it with some fun friends. So anyway, if there's any news or anything to talk about, be sure to cover it here. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you guys have a great day. Hope to see you in my next video, but until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.